today's video is a very exciting, very nerve-wracking, very hard video for me to film, but it's also very fun. Did I say fun twice? I don't know. But today's video is going to be a collaboration with my friend Lauren Ashley. If you guys don't know who Lauren is, Lauren is just amazing. I just love her so much. She is such an inspiration to me in so many ways. She's actually a nurse who is working through all this shit, so please go over to her channel and say thank you for everything she does. I just wanted to start with that because, like I said, I have so much respect for Lauren. I just look up to her because I find her to be very inspiring as a person, and we've actually met a few times. She lives here in Vegas, and I consider her to be a friend of mine now, and I'm just so honored to be able to do this collab with you, Lauren. I think that you are awesome. If you guys want to check her out, the kind of content that she makes on her channel is kind of similar to what I do, but also a little bit different, I guess. She does a lot of get ready with me's, which I don't really do a lot of those, but she also does a lot of multiple looks kind of videos with her new palettes, and she also reviews a lot of Jeffree Star, just like I do. So yeah, don't forget to check out her channel. It will be linked down below in my description box, as well as up in the eye up there. So for today's video, I had the stupid idea that we do this, and I don't know why, because I'm kicking myself now and my eye is watering. But today we are going to be doing a, if I could only keep 10 products for the rest of my lives. It was so hard, you guys, and we put probably a little bit too many restrictions and rules on this. So the way that we saw it was you could only pick items in each category. You couldn't pick palettes. The only palette that you were allowed to choose would be an eyeshadow palette. So face palette, contour palettes, blush palettes, highlighting palettes were kind of out of the question because we wanted this to be really hard. And if you could only pick 10 single items to use to do your makeup for the rest of your life, what would those 10 items be? And let me tell you, I did so much back and forth, and I would love to hear you guys' guess on which eyeshadow palette I'm wearing on my eyes right now. Leave your guess down below. I would love to see who got it right. So I think that's all I wanted to say for the intro. I'm obviously going to be using all of these and doing a full face with the products that I chose. So I think that's all I wanted to say. So if you want to see what I used, just keep watching. I hate saying that because I feel like it's such a beauty guru thing to say. Just keep watching. But I mean, really though, just keep watching. So this could be the worst video idea that I have ever had because I've been swatching things on my hands, I've been swatching things on my face. I think I'm kind of satisfied with what I have here, but time will tell because now we're going to actually use them. So for my foundation, I'm going to choose my Estee Lauder foundation. This is the Double Wear. I love this foundation. It is my holy grail. I'm obviously not going to use a primer because 10 items, a primer just doesn't fit into that, and honestly I don't really use primers anyway, so it seems kind of pointless to pick out a primer because it's not something that is normally in my routine anyway. So yeah, I mean, I feel like the things that I struggled the most with was figuring out whether or not like blush and bronzer was worth it, and if I wanted to put in like some eyeliners and stuff, like that was where I was kind of struggling. So I will show you the decisions that I ended up making when we get to that point, but I'm going to first put on my foundation because that is really not like all that interesting. I would love for you guys to do this if you have a channel. I feel like thinking about it in a hypothetical way and then making a list without doing your makeup with those items is so different, because when you're actually forced to do your makeup with these items and imagine that this is going to be the rest of your life, these are like the only choices that you can use for your makeup for the rest of your life, it becomes a completely different story. It's kind of like the if I could only keep 10 eyeshadow palettes tag. It's one thing if you're just like thinking about it, but then once it becomes reality and you know that these are the items that you have to use forever, it becomes really scary. But I feel like with eyeshadow palettes, at least, you know, you have a lot of options. But here it was like I could only choose one eyeshadow palette to use for the rest of my life. Who knows what kind of makeup I'm gonna want to be into in like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. So maybe I made a bad choice, but I was definitely in the mindset of if I'm gonna do my makeup anyway, I might as well have fun with it, you know what I mean? So I did end up going with a concealer. I was torn between a concealer and an eyeshadow primer because I can definitely use this foundation as a concealer if I wanted to, but I was like, I don't know. I wanted to have a concealer because I felt like I could multi-purpose it. So I did go ahead and choose a concealer, and the concealer that I'm choosing is going to be the Jeffree Star concealer. I really like this concealer. I've been using it basically ever since I bought it every day, and I can't stop. And every time I don't use this concealer, I regret it and I want to use it. So this was a very easy choice for me, and I feel like I'm gonna be able to use this as an eyeshadow primer as well. And I like to put concealer on my nose because sometimes I find that my foundation doesn't last as well on my nose, but my concealer lasts better than foundation on my nose. I don't know if that is just me, but it's just something that I've kind of discovered over time here. And I'm not gonna lie, this is a situation where I kind of wish that I didn't have oily skin, because that way I wouldn't have to waste one of my products on a loose powder or a powder to set my face with. But since I am as oily as I am, like, I need a powder. Like, it's just a necessity for me. I could never go a full day and have my foundation wear without powder. I've never tried it, but I can't imagine, because my foundations barely hold up with powder. So like, I don't know, I didn't feel like that was something that I could really leave out of my routine, and something that I just needed to have in there. And the same kind of goes for a mascara. Like, obviously I need to have mascara because I don't use false lashes. Like, I feel bad for the people who wear lashes and who has a very high step routine, because I honestly don't do like anything too fancy with my base. I don't do a lot of contouring. I don't use like that many products compared to some other people. Like, I know people who use like 3 different powders, and I'm just like, no, I don't have time for that. So in a way, my routine kind of makes this challenge a little bit easier, but I also feel like I'm one of those people who use a lot of products because it's just fun. So for me to not like be able to pick 5 different eyeliners, like colored eyeliners, like that was a struggle for me. So I'm going to set my face. I'm going to choose my Wet n Wild loose setting powder because this powder just works really well for me. It works with every foundation that I have, and I just feel like it looks really good. So I'm just gonna go ahead and set my face real quick. And then I'm going to do my brows. Now, I did try to come up with some kind of a palette that had a good brow shade for me in it, so I wouldn't have to waste a spot on an eyebrow pen. But to be honest, I like the way my brows look a lot more when I use a brow pen, and it's what I always use, and so I just feel like I couldn't really skip that step. So the one I'm going to use is my CoverGirl brow pencil. This is in the shade Soft Brown. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my brows. I'm gonna do this real quick, just have you guys watch, because I can't talk while I do this. Okay, brows are on, hair is down. The reason why I always take my hair down after I do my brows is because if I leave them back, like, they will get like an indent in them and they will lay really strangely, and then I have to like go restyle them after. So I don't want to wear them like back for longer than I have to. So I did end up going with a bronzer. I was very torn, and so many times I went back and forth. I'm like, do I want a bronzer? Do I want a blush? Do I want a bronzer? And I ended up sticking with a bronzer because I figured that I could actually use some of the shades in the palette that I'm choosing as my blush. So that's basically what I'm going to do. So this is a Hoola bronzer by Benefit. This one works for me both in the summer and the winter, and I really just like how it looks. So that is the reason why I chose this. Now, I don't think I would say, like I said, I don't think it's necessarily my favorite bronzer. It's not the one I reach for all the time, but it is the one that I feel like, I don't know, I just can't go wrong with it, you know? But I do like having a variety of bronzers with different undertones and stuff, but I really feel like this one looks good with every blush. It also looks good no matter what season it is, no matter what eyeshadow look I'm wearing. It's just like a very nice solid bronzer, I feel like, on my skin tone. And so honestly, this is the moment that you've all been waiting for, because I don't have any blushes or highlighters that I chose because I figured I could use my eyeshadow palette. I don't think that is cheating because it's still technically only one palette that I chose to have in here. I guess you could choose like a face palette if you really don't care about eyeshadow and use like your face palette as your eyeshadow palette and use that as eyeshadow. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but Basically, the palette that I went for is the Jawbreaker Palette by Jeffree Star. Now, I still feel like I don't have everything I need in this palette, but it was as close as I could get to having a good variety of colors and shades, and there are some neutrals in here if I for some reason need to go the neutral route. I feel like what I'm going to miss the most in this palette is a variety of shimmers, because I honestly don't really like the shimmer formula in his palettes that much. But it does have enough of a variety that I can get a lot of different looks out of this palette, so I don't know. I mean, I just didn't have any better options. This would be a good time for me to have like a 99 pan palette, you know, those like stupid giant ones that came out last year. I don't know, this would be a great time to have one of these. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to do my eyes first, I guess, and then we can use the rest of this palette to pick out like some kind of a blush and highlighter. This is a beautiful highlighter, so this color right here is the main reason why I chose this palette to use. I can also get away with wearing this pink one. It's a little bit too intense and like foiled to be a highlighter, but I can make it work, so maybe I will do that today. So I guess I'm gonna start by just doing an eye look with this. I need to really tap out this concealer because this is why I don't use concealers as primers, because they just crease like crazy on me. But as long as they don't crease after I'm done doing my makeup, that's really all that matters right now. So I'm thinking I want to do something in the blue family, so I think I'm gonna start by building up a blue crease here. So I'm first going to dip into Delicious, which is the dark blue in this palette. I'm going to put that in the outer corner as well as my crease. I like to start with this color because it can tend to get a little bit patchy if I don't. So it'll be interesting to see how this performs on top of a concealer, because I never use concealer as a base normally. Especially when I'm using, you know, newer palettes and stuff like that. I usually only do it if I'm in a hurry and I'm doing a very simple eye look. So it'll be interesting to see how these perform. So like I said, I'm going to first pack it in the outer corner of my eye. I'm also probably going to take it down on my lower lash line, just on the outer corner here. And then I'm going to start running this through my crease. Wow, it is insane how differently these eyeshadows perform on top of a concealer. Like, this is looking really patchy. I'm really regretting not using an eyeshadow primer now, but honestly I did not want to waste a spot with an eyeshadow primer when I know I can make it work with a concealer. But I just wish I had an eyeshadow primer. Like, see how bad that looks? That is insane. Like, it really bugs me when people use concealers as eyeshadow bases in their review videos or like first impression videos, because it just doesn't perform the same. At least for me it doesn't. Maybe it does for you, but for me a concealer is not the same as having a good eyeshadow primer. I'm so curious to see what palette Lauren is going to pick, because I feel like her palette of choice is going to be maybe a little bit more on the neutral side. I don't know though, because she definitely likes color, but I also know that she likes her neutrals, so it's going to be very fun to see. And I feel like she's going to be having a very hard time deciding whether or not lashes is going to be worth it, because she always wears lashes every time. I'm pretty sure every time she does a full face of makeup, she wears lashes. Alright, so I'm not going to try to perfect this until I'm done with the rest of the look here. So next up I'm going to use, I think, Brain Freeze, and I'm going to take that and use to blend out this. Maybe I'll use this one. That's really pretty. I don't know if I've used this in a while. This is the shade Cute, and I feel like this is just going to match my hair, so we're just going to use that to blend out this color instead. And then after I'm done blending out this color, I'm going to go back in with the dark one and just make sure that everything is looking nice and opaque. I'm definitely seeing a lot of patchiness already here, so I can only imagine how it's going to look when I'm done blending this out here. And these colors are just performing so badly on top of my concealer. I'm highly regretting picking concealer as my base now. I should have picked an eyeshadow primer over my concealer and just used my foundation as concealer. I think that would have been a much better choice. But it's too late now, and I'm just gonna have to live with these choices for the rest of my life. Thankfully, this is not actual reality, and I don't have to do that, because I would cry. Like, I would be honestly so sad. I don't think I would be satisfied at all if I had to use all of these products every single day for the rest of my life. It would just feel like, I don't know, something was missing, you know? Okay, oh my god, so I totally forget, I asked you guys a couple of days ago on Instagram to just give me some questions, because I want to start doing like a question of the day in my videos, just so I could have something to talk about, and it'll be easier to just like keep a conversation flowing. So let me pull up one of the questions and see what I can answer today. Okay, so here is a good one. So it says, how does your husband and your mom like your makeup? So let's start with my mom. I think that my mom thought that me getting into makeup was a bit weird because, I mean, I don't live at home, so I don't see her very often. I live in Vegas and she lives in Norway, so I didn't really tell her that I started my channel in the beginning because I was worried about what, you know, my family would think, and I didn't want to get discouraged if people had anything negative to say. So they didn't really know I was into makeup until it had been a little while, and like obviously I don't see them every day. So yeah, like I said, she didn't really know how much I was into makeup until I said I started my channel, and ever after that, honestly, like, she thinks it's really cool. And even though she doesn't really ever comment on my makeup because she's not really into social media and stuff, so I don't know what she thinks of my makeup necessarily unless I'm with her, and then she will compliment me on my makeup. But she still likes my Instagram pictures and stuff, and I just think that that is really cool. But I think that she likes it. I feel like family members are just, at least my family members, are not very opinionated and outspoken. They don't really say what's on their mind at all times, whereas I feel like Americans are way more like that and way more likely to like compliment or critique or just say whatever they think. So I think that even if my family didn't like my makeup, they probably wouldn't say anything because it's just not, you know, who they are. And the same kind of goes for my husband too. Like, he rarely says anything about my makeup. I think he's complimented my makeup or said anything at all once, and it was when I did a full rainbow cut crease, and he was like, "Oh, your makeup looks cool." I'm like, okay. Like, that's the weirdest look you could ever compliment me on, but like, thank you, I guess. So yeah, I don't really ever ask what people in my family think of my makeup because I don't really care. I do like it when I get complimented on it, but if they don't say anything, I don't get offended by it, if that makes sense. Because like most of the people in my family just don't know anything about makeup, so it doesn't make sense for them to really compliment me on it or say anything anyway. Like, all I know is that the people that I am around and the people that I'm close to aren't the kind of people who will tell me if they don't like something, and I really appreciate that because I can't stand when people just say that they don't like something without being asked if they like it or not. Like, I feel like that is just so rude. Like, that is not constructive criticism at all. It's only constructive if it's being helpful and if you're asking for it, you know? Maybe you don't have to ask for it, maybe it could be helpful still, but for the most part, I just feel like if you don't have anything nice to say, like, you just shouldn't say it at all because nothing good is going to come out of that. Okay, so I think the crease is looking pretty good now. So for my lid, I think what I want to do... See, I'm already so stuck. I just wish that there were different options in this palette, but I think I'm going to start with Bite Me, which is the dark shimmery purple, and I'm going to put that in the outer corner of my eye, or more like the middle of my eye, I suppose. I am going to spray this though. And I know I'm going to have very stained eyelids tomorrow now because this shadow really stains. But it is a beautiful purple. So I'm just going to fade that into the outer corner of my eye here. And then I think for the inner part, I'm going to use probably a light pink. It's in times like these where I wish I had more rainbow palettes in my collection and I had a better selection of like big palettes that I could choose from. Like, if I had the James Charles and Morphe palette right now, honestly, that would probably be my pick. But since I don't have that and I don't really have any large palettes that are bigger than this one, I felt like this was really the only choice that I had to pick if I wanted to have, you know, a lot of options. So I don't know, I'm still not happy about having to pick this palette, but it was the best that I could do given the circumstances, I think. So next I'm going to take Snack, which is this light pink shimmer, and I'm going to put that basically on the rest of my lid here. And I think I'm also going to use this shade as my face highlight when I'm done with this. That is one nice thing about, you know, using this palette as a face product as well, because you can really tie in your face to your eye makeup. I do wish that there was some kind of a blue shimmer in this palette because I feel like it's definitely lacking that. Like, that would have been really nice. I could put a little bit of that like in the inner portion of my lower lash line maybe, but I guess I will just wrap this around a bit so that we can make this look a little bit more put together. Alright, so I think that looks really nice. I guess I will finish off my eyes before I move on to the face. So this was a very, very tough choice for me because I always put something in my waterline and I just didn't know if it was going to be worth picking an eyeliner because I never use black in my waterline. I don't really like the look of that. And since the only shade that I felt like I could really choose that wasn't black would be a nude, but then I was like, would I really want to waste a spot with a nude waterline eye pencil when it kind of looks like I don't have anything in my waterline to begin with now, but I honestly decided to use an eyeliner anyway, and this is Honeydew by ColourPop. Like I said, this was probably one of my toughest choices, and I feel like the thing that took this place was me being able to swap out blush and highlighter because I had them in a palette, and then I could put this in. Because I really do feel like it makes such a big difference to my eye looks if I can just put something in my waterline, even just a nude. Like, you can really tell the difference between the eye where I have this in and the eye where I don't. I just feel like this looks so much more complete. And also on days where I maybe wouldn't wear eyeshadow, I always put this in my waterline. And I also was very torn on whether or not I wanted to pick a liquid liner, but I love having the option of having a liquid liner, and it is also the only way that I'm able to do like a really big wing like you've seen me do in the past. So I did decide that I wanted to keep my liquid liner in here. So this is my DHC Cosmetics liquid liner. It's been my holy grail liner for probably 2 years now, I want to say. I'm going to put this on. I'm also going to use my Benefit Bag Bang mascara because you guys know I couldn't live without this, and I feel like this comes as no surprise to anybody. So I'm going to put these on and then we can move on to the rest of the face. Okay, so the eyes are done. Now let's take a look at this palette and see what I want to use as a blush here. So I do really like that I have this very pale pink here because I can mix that into this one or probably the peach one and it'll make a beautiful blush. I could also use the pink one on its own. I think that's going to be a little bit too pink for me. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix these two and I'm going to use that as my blush, and then I will probably take that same pink that I have on my lid and use as my face highlighter. So let's see how this ends up looking. So basically what I do is I'm just going to mix both of these together here, and then we're going to use that as the blush shade, and I feel like this is going to look really nice. Maybe I can use just the pink on its own a little bit too. Yeah, I think that's actually going to be fine. Yeah, I'm definitely okay with having a color like this as my blush every day, and I feel like it would go with most looks. I also feel like I could, like, you know, play around with mixing a lot of these because I also have this sort of light peachy shade down here that could probably be used as a blush if I wanted to do something, you know, maybe on like the brown or green side. Maybe I would want a different kind of blush, but for the most part I definitely go with pink blushes more than anything else. So I feel like I would be pretty satisfied with being able to use this palette as like my blush palette, if you will, because I just have so many options for what I could mix together here, and this makes for a beautiful blush. I really like that actually. Put some on my nose because I'm that kind of person, you know? And that actually blended out very nicely too. So I'm very happy with that. I'm gonna dip into Snack, which is this pink right here. It's very intense, so I don't want a lot of this. So I'm just gonna make sure I go in very lightly and just a little bit at a time because I know this is gonna end up looking quite metallic if I don't do that, and I don't like those kind of highlighters personally. But if I go in slowly, like you can see, that leaves a very nice sheen on my face, and I feel like this is definitely the kind of highlighter that I would be okay with wearing most days. And also I really like this Jawbreaker shade here as my highlighter. I've used that before many times and I really like it. So I'm pretty pleased with how my face makeup looks. I think I can deal with this. I feel like my main issue here is just like the eyeshadow primer and the eyeshadows. Everything else I'm pretty happy with. So for lips, this was, at first it was a very hard decision because I forgot that I had this in my collection because it was in my purse. But once I remembered that I had this, I knew I had to pick it. This is one of the Mcgrath lipsticks. I only have the mini, but I mean, I'm assuming this would never run out because it's the hypothetical situation where I could just use these for the rest of my life, so I didn't take that into consideration, obviously. So this is in the shade Christy. It's like very much in My Lips Are Better. It's very much the color of my lips, so I'm gonna go ahead and apply this. And I also really like to take my finger over these to just remove some of the excess. And I just feel like this is the kind of lip color that goes very nicely with basically all of the kind of looks that I do. Maybe not so much like green looks, but I feel like everything else it would look very nice with. So am I happy with my choices? I would say that I did as good as I could with everything considered. I don't think that there would be anything else that I would want to swap, except for I would swap my concealer with my eyeshadow primer, honestly, because I could just use my foundation as my concealer, and I would be perfectly happy with that. I'm pretty sure I'd be happy with that because the foundation is full enough coverage that I don't ever have to spot conceal when I use that foundation. So I think that would be the only things that I would swap if I had the choice to. Other than that, I'm pretty happy, honestly, and I'm not mad at all that I ended up going with the eyeliner as one of my picks, and I'm also not mad that I didn't pick any highlighter or blush. If I were to pick a highlighter and blush, I actually do have them picked out because at first I really thought that I was going to use them, but after a lot of thinking about it, I decided against it. But if I had to choose a blush, it would be this one from Anna Sui. This is the 301. Absolutely love this blush. It actually looks kind of similar to what I'm wearing today. And then for my highlighter, my choice would have been the Emerisi highlighter by ABH, but I figured since the color that I have in the Jawbreaker palette, which is kind of like a goldy undertone anyway, it would look very similar to this, and I just didn't feel like adding this in would really add that much to it. The only thing would be if I had some kind of a special occasion where I had to do a very glam look, maybe having a highlighter that's more like white base wouldn't be as appropriate, but you know what, it is what it is. So that's just kind of where I ended up. I can't wait to see what Lauren has done. I can't wait to see your video, Lauren. Thank you so much for collabing with me. This was so much fun, even though it was not fun at all to do, but it was so hard, you guys. If you want to do this, please do this. I'd love to see it, and I would love to see you use the products and not just make a list of it, because I found that that made a huge difference in how I thought about these things when I actually had to use them, and it wasn't just like in theory, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's gonna be it for today's video. Don't forget to check out Lauren's channel if you want to see some other challenges that I've done maybe. Here's a few more, and if you're new, I would love it if you would consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.